Why was Captain Kirk's body in Star Trek Picard? Interviewed about this recently on Inglorious Trexperts, Terry Matalas said his thoughts initially on how the character of Kirk was written out in Star Trek Generations. As you'll remember, in Star Trek Generations, we had Kirk and Picard come together on Viridian 3 to stop Soren from destroying a star, to divert the path of the Nexus. That would have involved, massive boom. Kirk, on a bridge, falls to the bottom of a ravine. A lot of people left unsatisfied. One of those people being Terry Matalas. He was directly quoted as saying, "It's not how I would have sent Kirk off, clearly because I just put his body back in Daystrom." Straight away, we were all thinking, oh my god, are we getting Kirk as well in Star Trek Picard Season 3? This is mind-boggling. This is a lot. Also, how are they going to fit this in? There's a lot going on in Picard Season 3. Terry quickly quashed any rumors of that and said, nah. The inclusion of the body was less of a, hey, here's what we're definitely going to do, and more of an option for other writers down the line to pick up this story thread and perhaps make a spin-off with Kirk. When pressed, he said, it's something of a nod to the novel The Return, which is a 1996 novel written by William Shatner and co-written by Judith and Garfield Reeves-Stevens. In this novel, set after the events of Star Trek Generations, Captain Kirk is resurrected by the Romulans and the Borg using Borg technology and the Guardian of Forever. Now, if that sounds absolutely bonkers, it kind of is. It was part of an extended series of novels that have been sort of unofficially dubbed the Shatnerverse, because William Shatner was directly involved in writing quite a few. I think there's about 9 of them at this stage. There's 3 unofficial trilogies. The first trilogy begins with Ashes to Eden, which sees Kirk's body, sort of, because you don't really see it. You see the rocks collapsing in, but it's being beamed off the surface of Viridian 3 to pick up straight away in the novel The Return. This was a fine way of bringing Captain Kirk back to life. And also a little bit prescient when you think of, in 1996, they had Romulans and Borg working closely together. It's a little bit of shades of the XBs and the Romulan Reclamation Project in Star Trek Picard's first season. On the panel in Daystrom Station, on Kirk's tomb, I guess? Tomb? Resting place? There is a reference to Project Phoenix, which, Phoenix, rise from the ashes. Yeah, it doesn't take a genius to go, all right, Grant. So there is a little allusion to the fact that in Daystrom Station, they may or may not be working on resurrection. I mean, really, they should just have a chat with Spock. He's literally done it. The really important thing to remember overall is that the inclusion of Kirk's body is just that. It is just an inclusion, it's a tip of the hat, it's a nod, and it's a little bit of it leaves the breadcrumbs for someone else down the line to perhaps pick this up. Matalas suggested that this is a story that could potentially be done in animated form. It could be done in any other form that people want to. As of recording of this, there is no announcement of Star Trek Legacy or anything like that, much as we are all clamoring for that to be a thing. Paramount, are you listening? But this is a plotline that could, of course, be picked up if that is something that they want to go with. William Shatner himself weighed in on it on Twitter. He made an allusion to the fact of so that's where Kirk's body was. But by finding it, instead of going rock, paper, scissors, it's rock, panel, station. Fine. It's a little bit of a fun nod. The thing is, it's sort of a love letter to the fans without locking anyone in to a future story or a future plot. Now, the Shatnerverse novels have effectively given a plotline for Kirk to come back. There are several of them which see him and Picard working closely together. One, in fact, which sees Janeway brought into it as well. There is a way to tie this into Star Trek Legacy. And quite frankly, the later we get in years, I'm trying to phrase this nicely, is that if you want William Shatner to do a cameo, maybe let's not leave it another 30 years. Would potentially be what I'm trying to say here. Your first thought might be, Chris Pine is doing movies. He's not going to come back and do a TV series of Star Trek. And you might be absolutely correct. But if you go and check out our recent video that we did, which was centered around an interview that Chris Pine gave, you'll see that he's quite keen to continue with Star Trek. He just doesn't know what's happening, much like the rest of us, with Star Trek 4, if or when there's ever going to be one. But he did suggest that it would be nicer to do something smaller, but for the fans of the franchise. And that, I think, that could be another nice way of doing something like this. Again, obviously we live in a world where I guess I'm assuming unlimited budget, Chris Pine's salary, higher than mine, put it that way. We also have another new Kirk in the form of Paul Wesley, who has appeared, of course, in Star Trek Strange New Worlds in A Quality of Mercy, the final episode of Season 1. We have seen via, about a year ago now, there was a picture of Paul Wesley standing beside Christina Chong's La'an Noonien Singh. So that didn't happen in that episode. So that is a suggestion that we're going to get more Paul Wesley in Season 2 of Strange New Worlds. So it means that, quite frankly, we have options when it comes to James T. Kirk. With Captain Kirk's body appearing in the Daystrom station, it begs the question of how would they bring this character back if they were going to? And I don't simply mean in-universe. There's any number of ways we can do resurrections. For further details, see Spock. Would you do it by bringing William Shatner back? Now, with the greatest love in my body, William Shatner is in his 90s, and if he wanted to retire, the man's allowed. Think of what we've had recently with, say, The Mandalorian or Top Gun Maverick. The use of AI to generate people's voices, and of course de-aging, which has come on an awful lot from that horrible scene in X-Men Origins with poor Patrick Stewart. However, I don't think we're quite there yet to do an entire series, let's say 10 episodes, where your lead character is being generated digitally if you're doing it in live action. I think if you were going to do something digitally, make sure, I would say, do it animated. Now, you might still have the issue that William Shatner today does not sound like William Shatner in 1994 when Generations was released. So there could be a little bit of touching up to the voice. That might be one option. I do feel that AI, which has come on so much in recent years, I don't think it's quite there yet. Straight away, you now have an in-universe TV recasting of Captain Kirk. We also know that from set photos released, he's going to be coming back in Season 2 again, so he's still with the franchise anyway, lovely jubbly. So that's one option, of have a spin-off series with this Kirk playing Kirk in the 25th century. You could always have cameos from Shatner. You wouldn't have to completely exclude anyone doing it that way. We have options. I think if you're going to go digital, keep it animated. That's absolutely, look at Lower Decks, look at Prodigy. Animation is doing so well at the moment. If you're going to go live action, personally, I would say go probably Paul Wesley or Chris Pine if he's up for it. What is it that you would like to see? Would you like to see William Shatner return in Star Trek in some form? Would you like to see Chris Pine come back and don the captain's uniform? Also, who wouldn't like to see Chris Pine in one of those Wrath of Khan era uniforms? Or would you like to see Paul Wesley be given a little bit more to do? Do you think that he's done enough with the character that it would have that emotional weight that the return of, say, the other two would automatically carry with them? I want to know what you have to hear, so let us know in the comments below and let us know over on social media as well. You can follow us on Twitter at Trek Culture and on Instagram at Trek Culture YT. You can follow myself at Sean Ferrick on Instagram, and you can follow the lovely editor Chris at EditChrisEdit over on Twitter as well and Instagram. You are all lovely, you are all wonderful. We have 2 more episodes of Star Trek Picard to go. Who knows? Maybe Metalis has been baiting us the whole time and it's going to end with, Kirk saying, how's it going? Although I sort of hope it doesn't. You look after yourself until I'm talking to you again. Make sure that you live long and prosper. Be kind to yourself, to others. Lead with love. Have a great week. Make it so.